going, I've got the list of things we're gonna talk through. So,
Yeah.
Zane, thanks for taking some time to chat. What's this all about? What are we
Well,
doing?
first, thanks for you reaching out. I was pretty excited when I saw that because I've, sort of had the same thing brewing in the back of my head for a while. Just like, there's got to be some other accountants that can just have a conversation.
So on the topic still of marketing, obviously I know you guys have Protea Conversations. Have you ever considered dabbling in podcasting or something where you're working, like, I guess, connecting directly with winery owners?
A little bit. I mean, as everybody's watching this, you'll see I have a lot to say, which doesn't necessarily make for a good podcast host. So, but if anybody wants somebody who can talk a lot in their podcast, like, feel free to reach out. So, I mean, as close as I'm getting right now is that I've been started in this year sort of doing what we call in Protea Live, where I'll just take a topic, turn on our YouTube live, talk into the abyss because there's nobody else watching, because there's no rhyme or reason when I'm talking, but I can share my thoughts and, I can take 15 minutes to just like rattle on what I'm thinking about, which I'm finding pretty therapeutic more than anything else. It's just a good thing to like, I've got a lot in my head, let's get it out there. And then use it to sort of break it down, some concepts which people seem to be liking. My company that helps me with the marketing are very much on like, you've got to turn Protea Conversations into a true podcast. And I'm like, yeah, I just need some time. If I had some time, I would definitely do it. I mean, it's not out of the realm of a possibility, but for now, I'm probably not the greatest example of somebody who should be hosting a podcast.
And I mean, is there any reason for why you say that?
I just have a lot to say rather than, I get pulled on a tangent all the time. I'm sure I can pull myself together and get it done, but I feel like I'm in a place right now where I want to share my knowledge. And maybe once I get that out of my system and sort of definitely know what I'm talking about, share my thought process, that could turn into something in the future.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good. I mean, I'm glad that you were saying that because I think my challenge right now is I do also have a lot to say. I do love to talk. That's not an issue for me. But I also love asking questions. And so my issue is like I almost find it more comfortable to be in the podcast host seat and having people on my show because it's just like I feel like it just comes naturally because I'm just like a very curious person. So something I'm actually toying with right now. Well, I'm not even gonna say I'm toying with. I actually just yesterday put together the intro for the new podcast I'm launching called the Dev Launch Podcast. And basically what we're gonna do is we're just gonna interview a variety of different levels. Maybe they've been in the business for 7-10 years. Maybe they've just started out last year, but we're talking with specifically software development agency founders, people who have started their business and like what prompted them to make the move, a little bit about their background and their history, and like what have they been learning in the midst of things. And then also talking about like hot topic issues of the day. Like everyone and their mother is talking about AI, but it uniquely hits home in the software world, and especially for custom software agencies, because it's like, things are just changing so rapidly, even for them. I'd love to get their take on it. So I've got a couple guests lined up. But I think with everything, and maybe you can agree or disagree with me on this, but when we're talking about marketing and marketing strategies for our businesses, I think it's just like it's a constantly evolving game of just see what works. And then as long as it works, keep doing it. And then if you're noticing it's not working anymore, then pivot and change. I don't think there's like the right strategy. It's like, we're just always iterating.
Yeah, I agree. I think your strategy, there's the idea of like, okay, this is what I'm trying to achieve. But the way you execute it has to be continuously evolving because everything else is changing around you all the time. There is just going to be the change of way things do.
Yeah.
But you also have to understand who your target audience is. And, like I mentioned, we have some print ads. Well, I mean, if you go look at the average winery owner, they're still on the older side. They still like to pick up a magazine and page through it. If I am just on LinkedIn, or say I was even more cool and I was like only on Instagram or only on TikTok, there's a good chance you miss a part of your target audience. Or maybe they're there and they do see it, but you also need to be where people are, right? So if they're picking up that publication, that one of the main reasons they got that publication is got a different vendor's names in it, and they're seeing these adverts, and I can consider to use. If I'm not in that space, being one of their options, like how would they know to use me? Like, they're going to get this random name, they're going to hear this funny accent, and that we send work to, some, dark continent that might not even have power at the moment, and they're just like, oh my word, what am I going to do? So, your strategy has to be what I've learned, and obviously, marketing is not my thing, but I've done okay at it, is that you have to be super specific, but at the same time, you have to have some feelers on the outside to catch some of the people on the peripheral as well.
That's so good. That is so good.
You have to have your primary and you have to have your secondary. You can't just be like, I've got singular focus. It's probably going to miss a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that's so good. And even what you said about, going with print ads, like print ads probably would never work for my audience. But I think, again, it speaks to the power of knowing who that person is. What is that person? What's the ideal client persona? Like, are they like, generally speaking, what's their age demographic? What's their background and all this kind of stuff? Because if you don't know that, there's no way you're going to know how to reach them. Yeah, I've got so many more thoughts on that, but I do want to get to some other questions or topics that we were going to cover. But maybe we'll have another podcast episode just on marketing.